There's a lot of thought that goes into pieces of it. So, we have Auckland, New Zealand, and Singapore on the back end. So something that we've tried to do recently is actually route those together. So we're going to be doing it in June, and then in November as well, we'll be doing another Australia and Asia event back to back. Obviously from a personnel perspective and travel and everything like that, it makes sense to have the same crew run both. And then for Rio and Stockholm, that's a mix of kind of our TV requirements and what we're doing. So we knew that we were going to have a pay-per-view in Brazil this year, and we were going to go back to Rio. And the question was, okay, when do they have venue availability? When does it match up with our pay-per-view dates? And we were obviously able to lock in the venue for June 3rd. So that was just kind of coincidental that it abuts, Auckland in Stockholm, Auckland in Singapore. And then with Stockholm, it's funny, we've worked with Fox the last few years. I don't know if you've noticed, but we do a fair amount, maybe 2 in the spring, Sunday afternoon shows on US broadcast, which gives us the flexibility to do a Sunday night show in Europe, which is nice. So you don't have to add output. We can do it within our Fox agreement, do an FS1 show, which is great. So it was kind of a perfect storm, spring, for Stockholm, and then the pay-per-view in Rio, and then obviously routing the 2 in Asia. But yeah, it's great. I mean, obviously it's going to be a pretty big burden on our staff, but operationally, we've been doing 40 events a year. We do them all over the world. I don't have any, qualms or concerns about, pulling this off. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I think, the production side of things, we're in pretty good shape because we're doing events all over the place. And I guess the beauty of at least this stretch is, to be honest, we've played 3 out of the 4 arenas before, right? So we've been to the Globe in Stockholm, we've been to Vector in Auckland, and obviously we've played Rio a bunch. And even in Singapore, we've been before, not to Singapore Indoor Stadium, but we also have a full office there, right, which makes things a little easier. But I'm telling you, the burden on, Dave Lewis and that crew in London, they're doing our international kind of event ops now, Europe, Asia, and Australia. So they're doing 3 for 4. I know, it took a lot of time from them, but it's something that it's just the nature of the business, and we've gotten pretty good at it. I think if anything, it's more of strategically matchmaking for 4 international events, right? And it working out that you have the local draws, like the ability for us to have those 4 international events and be able to deliver, Gustafsson in Sweden, Aldo in Brazil, Mark Hunt in Auckland, and obviously putting a pretty good card together in Singapore as well. Like that's actually where I got more concerned. I knew operational would be able to pull it off, but actually bringing an event to market that is going to sell and that people are going to be happy with. No, they really have. Particularly in markets where there's language barriers and challenges there. When you think about Asia, like we had at one point 9 staff in Singapore, but the majority of that staff was English speaking, right? So when you're trying to go to markets in Japan, Korea, China, actually having local language capabilities and a handful of staff on the ground, just making introductions to vendors, different partners, sponsors, whoever it is, it adds a ton. But I think, operationally, we kind of still run our circus. It's definitely our show and our field, but I think where they've opened doors for sure on the sponsorship side, on, local marketing firms, even our TV sales and our TV rights. We've done a number of kind of big deals recently across the world. So it's definitely been a value add for us, and it's much easier to attack a market with 4 billion people in multiple languages with I think IMG's up to maybe like 600 people in Asia Pacific, something like that, and we were trying to run the entire region with 9 people in Singapore, right? So it's a completely different ball game for us. Even Australia, I think they have between their Melbourne and Sydney offices, I think they have 45 to 60 people, right? Now our guy Pete Kloss goes down there, sitting in the office every day, working with their team across PBR, culinary, models, TV sponsorship. So it just opens up a host of opportunities for us. Yeah, I think we feel like we have like a fair amount of room to run here in the U.S. We're definitely not mature business, but I think the way WMEIG and the way they look at it, and kind of one of their core tenets of their investment thesis was, hey, we'll get the UFC TV deal done, and we'll continue to grow the business here and the talent development and the star building and the pay-per-view, but it was very much international focused. And that's why you haven't seen even the slightest retraction. I think we're going to do 18 events this year internationally, so almost half the calendar. And we're just going to continue to expand. I think we've been pretty successful in Brazil the last few years. I think in Europe, I think we've sold out 11 of our last 12 events. We've been successful there. I think 2 markets where we're very focused now and kind of turning our attention is obviously Asia. We went with the Philippines event last year getting moved. We didn't actually even have 1 event in Asia last year. We're going to go up to 3 this year. And then Latin America, we just announced a massive deal with Fox in Latin America. You know, we went from basically no distribution to 28 million homes in Spanish Latin America outside of Brazil, and then when Mexico comes online in 19, it's going to go up to 44 million homes, right? So we're already looking at Chile, Argentina, Colombia, as far as expanding our event output outside of Brazil there. So, you know, it doesn't stop. Like even in Europe, we feel like we've done a great job. We've gone to new markets, but Russia's on the horizon for next year. Talking about going back to the Middle East, you know, for the first time since 2014. Even France, which has been on the radar for a long time, you know, new presidential elect put in a sports minister who is favorable on MMA. So we're going to get out in front of that, and hopefully, you know, that's really our last, you know, holdout from a regulatory perspective in getting that legalized. So there's still, you know, a ton of places, untapped markets and places to go.